Hello and welcome to my first Reef video. Now I am going to try my hardest to make this short and sweet. I'm going to try and give you as much pointers as I can based on my experience of doing this. It's just opinions and my experience. It doesn't mean that this is the right way or wrong way. I'm sure people may agree or oppose to what I have done or what I believe is right. I have been doing this for 5 months. So the tank you see in front of you is 5 months. It's my very first attempt at reefing. Certainly had to learn from mistakes, even though I have watched every video, been on plenty of forums, I still had to learn the hard way over certain aspects of reefing. Truth is, I was impatient and I thought by chucking money at it I would be able to achieve this all singing all dancing reef tank. It was very quickly apparent that patience was important, and in fact having a boring tank is probably quite key to your success. Not chucking too much in and just allowing the tank to mature at its own pace and then slowly but surely adding in. Now I'm going to give you again overview just of my journey of how I got to the stage I'm at just now. I'll tell you all the highs and lows, and then I'll give you my advice that I think if I were doing this again, it's exactly what I would do. So this video is aimed at people who are looking to start a new reef tank, or maybe have just started a reef tank, or just, maybe anyone who's just looking for some advice about, reefing. So I started actually with a small tank. It was a 23 litre nano tank which had a hang-on back filter. I bought cheap LED lights, dry rock, so there was nothing really going for this tank on the get-go, to be honest. And I did do a fish cycle. I chucked two blue damsels in because I didn't want to just stay at water. I wanted to actually see some action in the tank and some colour. Now I understand people don't really agree with fish cycling, but I would say it's maybe, I don't think it's that bad. I think if you know what you're doing, you're experienced, I think you can make it work. However, I probably put my fish under far too much stress. I've never lost a fish, but I felt that it wasn't the right thing for me to do. And going forward, I will use bottled ammonia and live bacteria and do it that way going forward. However, the tank itself started off well, which it would do. It's fresh water. You can test it and it's going to come back good because you haven't had any ammonia in it. So there's nothing wrong with the tank initially. And that was the case. However, it didn't take very long for problems to arise, and very quickly the ammonia spiked, the nitrite followed that, so on and so forth. Now I never had any issues really with algae, but that's because the tank was too young. I was struggling to maintain it and keep everything afloat, so I was doing lots of water changes and quite big ones as well, just to try and take out the bad stuff and put in the nutrients. However, it was a battle and it was costing me money. I was putting in coral and they were dying. It was a mess. I'm, to be honest, we're quite embarrassed now when I look back at it because I should have really just taken my time. So that kind of goes to my first sort of tip is be patient. Don't think that you can just chuck coral in and fish in. It's not going to work. Honestly, you are wasting money. I probably have lost a good few £100 just by being impatient, essentially. I then quickly decided that maybe a bigger tank would help my cause, so I did. I upgraded it to a Fluval Evo tank, which I think is 56 litres, which was good, great tank. I would highly recommend it as a starting tank. And I moved the rocks over. I got a new sand bed. I still had the same LED lights, but then I did buy a better light online, which was like a Pixie 30, but it just wasn't good enough. But it seemed to be doing okay. The cycling seemed to go better, but I was still having to do quite a lot of water changes. And then I moved on. Then I decided that I wanted a bit more fish, a bit more room to landscape, and I then purchased this tank. So it was a lot of moving. I basically have had 3 tanks in the space of like 2 months. However, I got live sand, I moved the rocks over again, I put my fish in, I set up the back of this tank has like a sort of separate like sump, and I got myself a protein skimmer, I got myself a lot of good, good filtration in the back, and I let the tank sort of do its thing without adding anything else extra, and eventually slowly but surely added things in, and this is where I'm at just now. So everything is really healthy, everything's growing really well, and yeah, it's now starting to really take shape. I would say the last couple of weeks have really started to show great progress. As you can see, there's no signs of algae. I've probably been quite lucky in that aspect. So where I was, so I'm going to give you pointers to where I was in the mistakes I was making and to how I managed to correct those mistakes. First and foremost, stupidly, I didn't have any test kits. I had bought the test strips, which can test like 7 elements. Do not buy these. By by all means have them if for a backup source, or sometimes I like to do them before I actually do my test just to see what it comes up with. But they are not reliable, and they don't give you like they don't give you any form of like sort of accurate reading. They just give you a colour which you can kind of hopefully guess what margin it falls into. And that's where I definitely went wrong. I wasn't testing any elements really, and to be fair, on that strips there were certain things it wasn't testing for either. Salinity, phosphates, nitrate, I believe might have been one of them, and yeah, I was just winging it essentially. When I moved to my second tank, I did buy some test kits, but I only bought certain ones. I think I bought ammonia, nitrite, and I think that might have been it. I think maybe alkalinity, I bought that one as well. I bought a refractometer, so I was able to do the salinity checks, and I had a temperature to gauge to see what temperature my water was. So all those tests seemed okay, but I was still struggling with coral growth and death of corals. The fish seemed alright. I did lose a couple of hermit crabs, which were clearly stressed out. So I realised that there was still something not quite right with the tank. Then I upgraded to the next tank, the one I've got in front of me. But at this point I had all the test kits. And when I tested for nitrate and phosphates, they were higher than I thought. And that's when I had balanced them out, and that's when things really start to take shape. So as of today, I've already tested this tank today, and every parameter is bang on. And when I mean bang on, I mean, you know, salinity's 1.025, the temperature sitting at consistent 25 degrees, the alkalinity's 9, pH is 0.03, which is a good number for if you have SBS. Magnesium is about 1360, my calcium's about 430, so everything's where it needs to be, and I'm seeing the results of it. This coral here is actually the only surviving coral from my original tank, and it had 9 heads, and it's had 9 heads for about 4 months and a week. However, it's now sprouted 9 new heads in about the space of 2 to 3 weeks. Everything else has now started to show signs of life. This Goni that's here had always been alive but quite shriveled up, but it's now starting to extend a lot more. SPS that's at the top probably shouldn't have SPS. I don't think my skill level is ready for SPS. I've had it, it's died. However, this is seeming to be going quite well now. The one on the right hand side I've had for a good few weeks, and it was bleaching. However, it's now starting to come around. And because of the perimeters, but one of the main key aspects was back to when I was talking about LED lights. This is my next main thing I'm going to say to anybody. If you're starting your tank, before you purchase anything, I'm not even talking about your tank, get yourself all the test kits. Every relevant test kit. I'll try and name them off the top of my head. So you've got ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, phosphate, pH, calcium, magnesium, alkalinity. That's the ones off the top of my head. Test for salinity and your temperature. I think if you get them right, you're going to be onto something good. But the next huge element is your light. I purchased for this tank, and this only been for this tank, as an AI Prime, and it's made the world of difference. You know, the colours are a lot better, and yeah, just in general, the tank itself is, you know, it certainly, well, it certainly looks better, but the app does it all for you as well. So you can download schedules on your app and then load them on, and you're good to go. These are from people who are experienced with this, so it's already set up for you. So all the test kits and a proper light. Get them first. Then get your tank, set your tank up with your rocks, your sand bed, do your landscaping. Once you're at that stage, so the stage you would want to be at is you've got your tank, your sand in, you've got your rocks the way you want them to be, and then add your salt water. That's you almost there. You've got your filtration set up, and you can just start running the tank. From that point, you can start running the tank, and what happens is your tank will just flow. Now you're not cycling anything, but you're giving, you know, you're letting the water circulate through the tank, and then you can add bottled ammonia. Once you do that, you also with that add like live bacteria, the good bacteria that breaks down the ammonia. Add as much as you want. You can't overdose on that product. And then just allow your tank to cycle. Let it cycle. Resist the temptation to just chuck in fish and coral, because you will lose money. Your fish might, depending on how hard the fish are, your fish might survive it, that's fine, but you're putting through unnecessary stress, which I done, and it's not the best way to do it. You know, what you can also do is during that cycle with no fish in it, no cleanup crew, nothing, you can feed the tank. And I know it sounds daft, but that breaks down and creates ammonia as well, which then adds more to your bioload. So essentially what you're trying to do is create as much bioload in your tank as possible, so it can fight off when you do add an extra fish in, it's already set up for that fish. If you go and add 5 fish in a row, you're really ramping up the amount of ammonia that's going to go into the tank, and your tank can't fight that off, so it will take a while for it to establish and break it down. So don't rush it. Add in one thing at a time, 2 max, and allow it to develop over time. I mean, my tank is has got a long way to go before it really starts to show, but from where I was, it's come a long way, and it's certainly starting to form and shape up as a reef tank. I will do regular monthly updates, so you can see how it develops along with myself, and really watch it grow. I will add in more down the line, but right now I'm happy. Right now I've got all my perimeters balanced. I'm not having to really dose anything. I'm only doing about a 10 to 15% water change every week. I'm doing it every Saturday, cleaning the tank, you know, really good maintenance consistently, a good routine. I have an app on my phone that logs all my readings, and I can see if there's any fluctuations, and that way you can balance to see that, you know, for example, my alkalinity might be 9.3, I test it after a week and it's 9.0, I do my water change, I get it back to 9.3, you know, and you soon realise that you could dose during the week just a little bit, so you're consistently keeping it to 9.3. So these are things that you can figure out with the app as you track it. In terms of advice, you know, hopefully I've explained enough from a proper beginner. That's what I am, and I've seen the loss, I've seen me chucking money in the bin, and it really is honestly avoidable. The key element is just being patient. Don't expect you to be able to go out tomorrow and create this amazing reef tank. It isn't going to happen. I've seen some incredible reef tanks and I'm jealous, but they have said it's taken them years to develop it to that stage. It's sometimes it is sometimes it is quite good to learn from your own mistakes. But if you can limit those mistakes, then even better. I made far too much. I should have had the test kits. I should have had the right light. I should have probably not started in such a small tank, and I should have probably not done a fish only cycle, and I should have definitely allowed the tank to establish itself and test it before adding any elements. So please try your hardest to refrain from adding anything in. Again, buy all the test kits. Be prepared. Get your light. Get all your filtration. Get everything that you possibly need, and then set your tank up. Don't set your tank up and then add your filtration in a week's time, and then decide that you want to buy a protein skimmer. Then decide that you want to, get another light. Have everything that you want. Create your list and set yourself your aim, that what you want to achieve, and then go for it. There's plenty of great information out there, but sometimes being told by somebody who's just done it themselves does help. If you have any questions, ask me. I've maybe not covered everything, and I'm sure there's certainly things I have missed out myself. So feel free, by all means, like the comment, subscribe. I will be putting on more videos in more detail. For example, I will show every test that I do on this tank, and it will be a live, result for my actual tank, and I'll give you a better breakdown of how to do these tests, and I'll make as much video as I can to show each time that I do my maintenance, and yeah, I'll take it from there. But say any questions, leave a comment and I'll 100% answer them.